Okay, I hope this works. I've got the camera set as far back as possible within this room to show something, and I cannot record outside because it's pouring buckets. So generally I don't like to demonstrate sword techniques because I'm simply not advanced enough to be teaching anybody anything. But this is something that I find worth pointing out because it could help some people in their practice. For a while I had an issue sometimes after sword practice that I had tendon pain, like right above the elbow or sometimes also the wrist. And I now know why. And there's something you can do to avoid that, which is good technique anyway. When you're swinging a sword, be it during cutting practice or technique drills or sparring, if you end up like this, you have a problem. Because this kind of overextension is pure stress for the wrist. Especially if you stop it here, because then suddenly most of the force is absorbed by your wrist and specifically the tendons. So this is quite a problem. If you want more reach, it's better to use a handshake grip like this. You'll see the difference between this and this. This is a lot more in line. So this is a much more stable support for the wrist. And follow through is also very helpful for that. Because if you stop it here, then you have to hold the entire momentum of the sword with the muscles in your forearm. So if you have very strong forearm muscles and maybe a very light sword, I mean, this here feels pretty light, but say something noticeably under a kilo, might be less of a problem, but it's definitely better for your muscles and tendons to actually follow through. So say I'm going to cut and I'm just moving it right back up. I have to watch out with the ceiling here. And then either return in order to receive your opponent's counterattack, or you can go into the next cut. So the idea is to avoid bending your wrist too much. If you're using a hammer grip, then it's more of a close range cut. And you can see here, as it's passing, I don't let it collapse. I don't let it just kind of fall down, but I keep holding it like this and rotate in the shoulder. You can also rotate in the elbow, but I find this is most comfortable. So this way you're not only avoiding the shock on your joints, but you're also using the momentum to get back into a guard position. So you're conserving your energy. And to show that from the other side, I have to be careful with the ceiling and the wall here. So not collapsing the wrist, but keeping it nice and aligned. For this, it's also important how your feet are placed, especially in the beginning. You do not want to cut towards your own leg. Like if I cut towards my left leg is in the rear. The right foot is the leading foot. So this way, even if I mess something up and the cut comes too close, I'm not in danger of cutting at my own leg, as opposed to having the left leg in front. Things could happen. It's maybe not that likely, but it's definitely safer. So in case of a backhand cut, left leg is forward, I'm cutting towards the right, and there it goes. I'd say this applies mainly to one-handed swords. With a two-handed grip, you have plenty of stability, so it's less critical. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt to also follow through here. And I really have very little space to do this. But yeah, that's the basic idea. With an undercut, this is not a concern because you just rotate your body, come straight up, and there's not much to do with the hand and wrist anyway, regardless of whether it's a hammer grip or handshake grip. So no problem there. I figured if you're doing some kind of one-handed sword practice and don't have an instructor to spot these things and point them out to you, this may be valuable to know. So for one, to not collapse the wrist and to do the follow through on the cuts. Very important here is don't do this kind of thing, because that's just going to mess up your edge alignment, and that's also a lot of wrist action. So it's really, the rotation is in the shoulder or potentially in the elbow, not in the wrist. Wrist power cuts are something else entirely, which are fine. You can do wrist cuts, but this is also using the momentum. So you're not doing a wrist cut just like this, hopefully, unless it's a very light sword, because this could be pretty hard on the wrist. In fact, I hear it cracking as I'm doing that. So that's what I was taught. If you have another method that works good for you, let us know. And if you do, please explain why it works. And it's always good to be aware of why do you do the things you do. Because sometimes in martial arts, there is a tendency to just do a technique because it's tradition, because it has been done this way for quite a while. But if you ask why, what is the practical purpose, then sometimes people go, I don't know, it was just what we do. And I don't mean that as criticism of any particular school or individual practitioners or anything like that. It's just a general observation. But that's beside the point. So I just want to show you that. Hopefully it helps somebody. And thanks for watching.